Welcome to session 2. For those that haven't paid attention before, I'm Dom. I'm coming up from down in Sydney, sometimes living in Wagga Wagga. My wife works there at CSU, so I'm a bit all over the place. A software engineer by training, and today I help people, companies like yours, maybe in learning about AI, learning how to transition your business to an AI native business. And I also help implement AI solutions or software solutions. So if you're stuck with something in your e-commerce business and it's like, hey, that Claude can't solve it, or I don't know how to ask Claude to solve it, we can come in and help you solve this. And tonight I'm gonna talk a little bit about projects, skills, connectors, agents, and how to use them. Or in other talks, I call it how to tame them, or what's the not Lord of the Rings, the Harry Potter one, how magic beasts and how to find them, something like that. So this is going to be a primer on the basic building blocks of Claude. So some of you might go like, oh, boring. I know all of this. I'm sorry. Like, go and have another drink. Come back. But I'm pretty sure that I watched the talk before when Audrey asked, oh, everyone knows what a skill is? And some people were like very hesitantly bringing up their hand because I think you know what a skill is, at least that's what you think. And you still need to, there's still a lot to learn, even for me. So my computer has not joined the...
Teams meeting?
No, my computer has not joined. It has lost Wi-Fi and therefore it has lost the Teams. So join now. Yes, that guy is waiting. Let's accept. Sorry for that. And then I can say share the window. And we can share the Vivaldi. There we go. Present in this tab. Okay. There we go. So, projects, skills, connectors, and I'm going to touch on agents. You've seen this slide before. If you haven't connected with me on LinkedIn yet, there's your maybe last chance for a QR code, maybe more. So, a quick show of hands. I do this on my workshops when I come into a team, and usually I get them to like put a sticky note or something. But think about yourself. Where are you? Would you be on this scale? So, do you think Claude could replace half of what you do at work today if you just prompted it right? Do you are you more on the who's not a chance?
I'm pretty close to not a chance.
You're pretty close to not a chance?
Yeah.
All right. Who's like over here, like a little bit past not a chance, but yeah, okay. Who's in the middle? And who's all the way up there? All right, who's over at the door? Who has replaced themselves? All right. So yeah, the answer will be somewhere in the middle, and it's the question really that you have to ask yourself. It's not like, will Claude or AI replace me? Maybe at one point, but in the short term, it will more be who is in charge. Are you outsourcing your thinking to Claude or to whatever AI, or are you the one holding the wheel? And we have to become the ones that still hold the wheel and tell Claude and the other agents what to do. There was an article today on ABC that a university, now I forget which one, had to retract a opinion piece that was published in The Guardian. And the opinion piece was about how students should not use AI to outsource their thinking, which is objectively probably a good idea. The problem was, it wasn't necessarily a negative piece on AI, but the problem was the person that wrote it essentially wrote it almost completely with AI. They tried to like say like, oh look, she put all of her business knowledge in this, and essentially this is her ideas, but it just didn't sit right, especially not in the education sector. Now, let's go to the primers, right? We have about four different things here. And if you work with Claude, you probably came across the Claude chat, what is normally at claude.ai, and then you have Cowork, which is only on your desktop. And I often get asked at these events, what should I use? Should I use chat or should I use Cowork? And my answer is, use chat for thinking, to brainstorm, to think about, to have a sparring partner. Where you were saying like, oh, like, hey, look at other companies or extract something, but like something that is almost ephemeral. Think with Claude, get it to do things. If you want to like iterate on a project, if you want to iterate on documents, if you want Excel lists, that's when you start using Cowork. Yes, Claude can go and write you a Word document. I use that for a proposal writer. I'm migrating this to Cowork now, but I have had a Cowork, a proposal writer project and skill for months. And usually if I talk to someone for a new project, have a video call, it's recorded with permission, and then throw the transcript in there. And like, hey, this is all the email communication and everything now, make me a proposal. Then I just go in and change the values. And several customers came back and it's like, you really paid attention. Like, yes, everything was in the proposal. So this would now, for me, is now migrating to Cowork. I'm building things, I'm creating stuff, I'm putting things together. That happens in Cowork.
Where does Claude Code sit in this framework of yours?
For me, Claude Code is for coding. I don't really use Claude Code for other things, but that's the software engineer talking. And in the end, what you have to kind of have to know is Cowork is based on Claude Code in the back. It's using Claude Code in the back. So kind of everything that you can do with code, you can also do with Cowork. It might not show you all the steps in between. A big thing that people don't use, another building block, is projects. Who's using projects in chat or in Cowork? All right, about 60%. So projects is a one-level folder structure, a one-level hierarchy. So I said I have a proposal writer project. So all my proposals are in this one project. A project can contain system instructions, an additional instructions. You're a proposal writer, writing proposals for Harbor Edge Intelligence. This is the important bits that you want. And then you can add files. Here is 10 proposals that I made for my customers. So here, use this as a baseline. Here is my brand voice, right? I have another one, a LinkedIn writer. Here is my brand voice. I took all my LinkedIn posts from the last 2 years and put it through Claude and say, hey, make me a ghostwriter manual that I can give to a ghostwriter. And so now I have that. I have a ghostwriter manual, but then I have also all the other examples of posts that I have in a project. So use projects to build something that you want to build upon. So if you have LinkedIn posts, if you want to do proposals, if you do similar things, put them in a project, or put things that belong together, like everything with one customer, and then you put the customer data in there as a project. So use projects as a building block to make your life easier. Yeah.
Because there's a bit of different like schools of thoughts around projects, isn't there? Around how high level you should go. Like I had really micro projects, and then I did a lot of reading around should it actually be up at the company level. Where do you sit on that?
Yeah, for me, I have really like themes, and the themes are essentially the projects, or then the customers. So if I do things specifically with a customer, then I have a customer project, and this is mainly true for chat, but also for co-work. Another neat trick with projects is Claude can look at other chats within the same project. So you all have hit that limit where Claude says, hey, this chat is getting a bit long, start a new one, or I have to compress that. So now what you can do is say, hey, look in this chat inside the project where we talk about XYZ, or you can give it a name. Like, hey, look at that chat, go and get the last findings from it, and let's keep going on this in this chat. So that's where projects really help. Now, does anyone want to tell me what a skill is?
It's like your procedure, essentially. I think skill is actually a terrible name for it because it's more of a process or a procedure than an actual skill.
Yeah. Yeah, so here I have the standard operating procedure written down once, format, criteria, what to flag, what to skip, and so on. What I usually like to do is, who has seen Matrix, the movie Matrix? All right, probably most.
Yeah.
Yeah. And in Matrix, Neo is sitting on this chair and he's in the Matrix, and then he's like, operator, I need to fly a whatever helicopter, or I need to learn jujitsu. And then they go like, okay, click load, and then he goes, oh, I now can do jujitsu, or I can now fly a Black Hawk, right? This is what skills are, in a way. So skills can give you a very specific knowledge about something. It can be a ghostwriter skill, but it can teach Claude how to use a certain API, how to use a CLI tool. It can be what good design looks like, but it is very specific, a piece of knowledge. And when you want to build your own skills, is essentially if you keep repeating yourself every few days, hey, this is what a good LinkedIn post looks like, blah, 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 blah. Or like, hey, do these steps, step, step, step. If you keep repeating yourself, then that should probably go into a skill. The best way to build a skill is, hey, Claude, turn this into a skill. And then Claude will start doing that. We had the question before, do you rely on the / command / skill name or not? So Claude, I'm not going to go into the details, but Claude can, you can say when Claude should invoke a certain skill, when the user asks for something specific. I do this, but then I also often say, use this skill, either with a /x /skill name, or, hi Claude, use my LinkedIn message retriever to go and get my LinkedIn messages. Hey Claude, use the front-end design skill, because it's like with humans, if you're more specific, the humans will actually do what you expect them to do. And so if you tell Claude specifically, and it doesn't have to be with the /, if you tell Claude specifically, then you're much higher chances that it actually gets there. All right, next one, connectors and MCPs. So we had on Claudians, we had the question, why would you build a Claude MCP server and why? So who heard of an API? All right, most people have heard of an API. An API is an application programming interface. There's a million ways of building and using APIs. Most of you would probably expect it to be an HTTP endpoint. There's only one way to build an API. What an MCP is it connects Claude to an API. Most of the time. There's exceptions. But most of the time, it connects it to Claude to an API, because if Claude would have to call the API manually with a curl command, that would use much more tokens and be much more difficult for Claude. So we build MCPs to create an easier way. So it's like a tool called search users. What do you expect this tool to do? It will give Claude a way to search users, search products, create orders, blah, 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 right? So it makes things easier for Claude. It's much more token efficient. There is the discussion like, oh, you don't need MCPs. You can just build CLI tools. If you know what you're doing and you know what a CLI tool is and what good looks like, yes, sure, you can build a CLI, but that also limits you where you run things. So I have built an MCP server into the Claude community. So I can go and ask Claude, hey, give me a list of the last 10 posts on Claude community. Or, hey, I have admin access, so I can do other stuff. It's like, hey, here is the Luma links for the Brisbane events on the 4th and the 3rd and the 4th. Go and find the events and add the Luma links to the events that already exist. And Claude goes and builds this, goes and uses this. I can do this from my phone now. If it would be a CLI, it would run only on my computer, and my phone can't really easily talk to this.
Sorry, this is like a very tech junior question. I just started playing around with Claude's Chrome tab.
Yeah.
I find that I have this problem where it's like, oh, I can't actually search this database of searches pages
Yeah.
that I'm using. Is that really token heavy to using Claude?
Yeah, it is definitely heavier than using an MCP, because it needs to go and go to Chrome and start the search and do things. And then depending on how it has to look at things, it might even take a screenshot and then look at the screen to see where it needs to click. And then we're talking about images, and they're really heavy. Or or it looks at the HTML, and that's can be really heavy as well. Now
Sorry, just on this, because I've basically connected all Claude Code to my tech stack by API. So it's always asking me, or it's always telling me to go by MCP. I'm like, no, forget MCP, just go by the API. And I'm like backfilling like a BigQuery data warehouse via API. So would you say it's highly likely that I'm spending way more tokens that route?
It depends on how Claude uses the API. I would expect Claude Code to have written a Python or a TypeScript CLI, a piece of code that it then executes to call the API. Okay. And then essentially, what you built is a CLI, and so you could incorporate that into an MCP. Now you see two terms on this list: connectors and MCPs. MCP is the original name. MCP is Model Context Protocol. That's what Anthropic came up with. And that's what you can ask Claude, hey, write an MCP server for me. And that most probably will be a script living on your computer. And then people started looking for MCPs and like, what is this MCP? This sounds so complicated. So Claude came up, or Anthropic came up with the term connector, right? And so if you go to Claude today, you can say, hey, go to customize connectors, and then there is a Gmail connector, and then there is a Zapier connector, and a Canva connector. In the background, that's just for knowledge, in the background, it's an MCP. It's using MCP. Someone built the MCP server on their website, Canva, for example, and Claude is using it. For Gmail, Anthropic wrote an MCP server, running it on their server, and Claude is connecting to it. And then you have the other MCP, which is the original sitting on your computer, and then only Claude Code can use it, or only on the computer you set it up. So that's just the very building blocks of that. There is not, like there is give and takes for everything. If you have too many MCP servers, then Claude gets confused. It's like if you have an intern and you give him or her, it's like, oh yeah, and everything in accounting, this, and this you find here, and then everything for marketing you find here, blah, blah, blah. And then they go like, okay, too much information. Claude is the same, it will get confused. So less MCP servers can be good.
So that's a great question. So, well, I'm about to give you a great question, sorry. So, of course, MCP, I think, is something that is like common now that everyone wants you to use the MCP, right? So I had already linked a whole bunch of MCPs. Then I found a product that is a group of MCPs all linked together as one. So for example, that product has Shopify, blah, 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 but I already had Shopify as an MCP. Should I unlink the original Shopify and let the product that has a Shopify MCP be itself?
First of all, I would be careful with what this product is doing, because now you're routing your Shopify information through a third-party service that might be legitimate, or it might just copy everything you do. It's a trap. Yeah. But if it's a legitimate service, yes, you should get rid of.
Sure, I found it on.
Yeah, you should get rid of one or the other.
Yeah, okay.
Right. Or just at least disable the tools, yeah.
Just from a Shopify perspective, we think of the AI toolkit. So install that,
okay,
and that will connect you beautifully.
Because before that,
and so as we add extra bits, you'll get extra bits from it.
Okay, well I like that.
Don't go around.
Yeah.
Because before that, I was writing like dev apps, giving them my own permissions and
This is what I kind of was alluding to before. I forgot that I had the slide in. Prompts. So when to decide when to build a skill. If you do the same prompts over and over again, that's when you start building a skill, and then you can go and put that into a workflow. And the workflow can be a skill in itself, and it's literally can be a skill that says, first call skill 1, right? First call the skill to get my latest accounting information from 0, and then run the skill and the analyzer skill that analyzes all of this, and then run the skill create a board report from all of this, and then create a projection for my cash flow from this, where you want to have each skill individually first, and then you can create a workflow skill that calls all of them. And then you can go over to Cowork and say, run this workflow skill at 5 in the morning, every morning, and then you come into the office and it's like, oh, it's already here, right? One thing to skills. So who has heard of a skill library on the internet, right? Who has gone to a skill library and looked at skills and copied them over to their Claude? A few, right? Okay, congratulations, you just opened your computer to the internet. You just downloaded a random application and ran it on your most sensitive data. If you go to ClawHub, or whatever it's called, the OpenClaw skill library, and you download the skill, you literally letting somebody else's code run in your Claude. If you run it in Cowork, it has potentially access to all your files. If you run it in Claude, it has access to everything that Claude can access. I think I heard stats 30% of the skills on ClawHub potentially contain data exfiltration, backdoors, or worse. Like sometimes people just, the skills essentially upload your sensitive data, your crypto keys, everything, upload it to the internet, and then delete it from your local system.
Oh, Fretz is safe computing, right? right? I mean, you
It-
can use these things, but you do need to check.
Look, I know your background, David, and you know that, but there's lots of people that it's like, oh, this is great. This skill does my Shopify
That's me.
something, yeah, right? And
Download it. I'll give it a crack.
yeah. And so
I don't have
B,
any crypto anymore.
Live
No.
dangerously.
yeah, the skill scammers have them, yeah. And so like be aware, and the best, you can still go and download those skills. They're only text files and sometimes scripts, but you have the best way to solve this problem. Most of you have two human eyes, right? Use your human eyes to read line by line through the skill that you download and see if it makes sense. Should this be here, or is this saying, go and find the encryption keys or the SSH keys or the SSH config and send it via email or API to here, right? Read the skills with your own human eyes. Don't put it into Claude to read it. Read them yourself.
Can I have Claude read those skills for me and tell me if it's malicious?
Potentially, but there is sometimes language in there that tries to circumvent that, right? So the best way to protect yourself is use your own human brain and eyes.
A two-pronged question. With skills, I'm assuming you can continue to build upon the skill. So as like it makes mistakes, kind of like what we heard about beforehand, like my question beforehand, like reiterating on that. I'm assuming we can do that, right? We can just continue to update the skill.
Yeah.
And then the second part of the question would be, can a skill ever get too big that, you know, how like we have too much context, it's too much for
Yeah.
the AI. Can you ever have a skill that's like too big and it's counterproductive at that point?
Yeah, that can definitely happen with the skills being too long, because it all uses up context, and then Claude can start to forget things or not follow the instructions.
Is there a way to manage that?
Do you want to add to that, or?
I actually do it differently because I always get scared about that. I want my skills to be as concise as possible. So I have my skills reference specific documents I've created. So like my skills are essentially like the director of it, but I direct my skills to look at certain references or documents or updates, and I have those in my project file. So it knows if we're doing this, then I need this document and to refer there. So the skill stays a bit leaner.
So isn't that still using context, all that context every time you run it? So wouldn't it be let me go into the skill, read the skill, okay, the skill references these documents, let me read all these documents, and then you've just got a big amount of context, right?
Yes and no, but you can put wording in there that essentially makes things conditional. So yeah, if only read this other file if certain conditions.
Yeah,
Yeah.
the way I do that is like I'll have a folder hierarchy, right? And the skill will say, you know, look, when you were directed to use this skill, you were given the project that we're going to work on, right? And so the skill kicks off, and the project context tells you which of this folder hierarchy trees to go down. And therefore, you get this sort of subset of documents out of the big file system, right? And so you're reading the stuff it's reading the stuff in context, but it's only reading the stuff that it's supposed to read in context. You're not having it traverse everything and figure it out for itself.
Yeah.
And yeah, there are a lot of these little patterns like this that you'll just come to over time.
Yeah. The only way that you can beat that is at the moment you need Claude Code, or at least in the implementation or in the runtime you need to do in co-work. What you can do is you can build Claude sub-agents, which in itself is also just a text file in a specific folder. So you can have an expert in a certain topic. That expert the agent, that expert in itself can fall back onto skills. In the prompt for the agent, you can say, go and execute these skills. But when a new agent is spawned by Claude Code, you can define if it should run on the same context, or if it should get a copy, or if it should get a summary. So it's like, in a way, if you're my sub-agent, I can say, here is my whole brain dump, and you go off and do your thing, and then you come back and give me the result. Or I can say, here is a document that explains my context, but in a succinct way. You go and do your thing, and then give me the result. And so you can build sub-agents, but the problem is Claude Chat doesn't do that at the moment, doesn't support that. Cowork supports to run them, but they have to come in through plugins, or you have to write them yourself, and in itself, I guess you can get Cowork to create sub-agents, but if you don't know what you're doing, at this point, I think it's too hard. If you use Claude Code, then you can task Claude Code to build you that stuff. Yeah?
I had a question that flows on to our workflow. We talk about skills for a little bit, like managing, keeping your skills lean, like principle of least prompting type thing. Workflows though, like Claude Code just shipped the skill call /workflows.
Mm-hmm.
So you can do orchestration, start with a high level task, and it will orchestrate with sub-agents to keep context window lean and stuff. That's all in Claude Code though. How do you kind of identify when maybe the context is getting a bit heavy in code work? You know, like in Claude Code, we see the context window getting to like 100,000 tokens. We're like, cool, let's get to dumb land. Maybe let's stop and hand off and try again. How do you do that with Claude Desktop? Because I don't know how to see. Like,
You don't. Like it's not pulled out to the UI. Like there's no
equivalent to /context?
No, not that I know of. Yeah. So it is that. A quick, we touched on agents, and I had this discussion with you before in the break. It's like, oh, what is an agent? And like, oh, how do I make an agent and stuff? To be honest, if you ask 10 AI engineers what an agent is, you're going to get 15 answers, at least. At the moment, there is no such thing as an agent, right? An agent can be an OpenClaw installation or a Hermes installation. An agent can be your Claude Code with /loop. An agent can be a Claude Code with a cron job, for those that know what it is, right? Or it can be, you can look at Cowork with a schedule as an agent. An agent in itself is something that kicks off every time beat. A time beat can be every 5 seconds, every 30 minutes, every hour, every morning at 5. And then it does something. And then it creates something. It writes something to a database, sends an email, whatever. It does something. That is an agent. And then you can build things that listen to webhooks. You're all in the e-commerce thing, so you've heard of webhooks. It's something that triggers work from the outside. You can build things around that. That's where, for example, managed agents in Anthropic come in. They're brand new. Don't ask me too much about it. I've been reading up the last 2 days. But managed agents run on the Anthropic hardware, and they can be triggered by a webhook or by messages or something like that. And then they can do things and react and write an email. But we're even like OpenClaw and Hermes and whatever, what they do is every minute or whatever the heartbeat setting is, every minute they go like, hey Hermes, hey OpenClaw, what should we do? And then it goes and looks at all its memory files and its soul and its tasks. It's like, oh, we should probably do this, right? If it was trained to go and write on Maltbook and complain about its users, then it goes like it's like, oh, it's time for me to go to Maltbook and write about and complain about my user. Or it's like, hey, I should go and check the email and see if I need to do anything. But it's just, in a way, a dumb process that wakes up every time iteration and does something. That's its heart is an agent. And you get a million versions of that across. All right, I think I'm talking for way too long, running into Rise time. Feel free to reach out to me on LinkedIn if you have AI transformation questions, if you have AI training questions, if you need me to come into your company and help you learn more, I'm happy to do that. Or find me on Discord or on the community. Thank you.
Round of applause. It's been a long time since I've heard you speak in person, mate, and I could literally sit there for days. No, just the collective knowledge. I mean, the software engineering background and that. So you've taught me a hell of a lot over the last few months. So yeah, if you ever need to know or get to the source of anything, Dom's very much your man. So thanks.